Come here, kid.
School was kind of odd because they were sort of preparing people to make films in a certain way, and Permanent Vacation was not made that way. So it wasn't very well received. It was very slow, and I think they thought there wasn't much of a story there. It wasn't very commercial. I made that film and I really thought, okay, I made a film, I'll never get to make another one, but at least I made one. And so now I'll continue working as a musician or a writer, and I really thought I never get to make another film. So, but you know, I learned a lot from the film, and I just did a new video transfer of the film, so it was interesting to see the kind of locations and what New York looked like. It's sort of an interesting time capsule of New York at that period. The late 1970s, you know, New York was very wild, and there was sort of an economic crisis in America, especially in New York, which was I liked because it was very free and you could kind of do whatever you want and live how you want. So it is, I guess, sort of a time capsule of that, you know. It was incredible. In the mid to late 70s, people were motivated by expression, and they weren't motivated by money or fame or record deals or working in Hollywood. So you could live in New York very cheaply. Like, I had part-time jobs, and then I could afford my rent and stay out all night and meet incredible people, whether they were musicians or painters or filmmakers or plumbers or whatever, you know. So it was really a very inspiring period for exchanging ideas. And that, you know, that sense of the music scene, which was expression, that sort of influenced filmmakers, especially Amos Poe at the time, who was really an inspiration to me because he made his early films out on the street for nothing, you know, with his friends. And so I sort of imitated that style in Permanent Vacation, not the style of his films, but the approach to filmmaking, which is, you know, very guerrilla style, do it all on your own and just make it by hand. When we were shooting in Permanent Vacation, there's some scenes where the character, Chris Parker, the main actor, he's dancing in a room and he's with this girl, Leela Gastel. And this was John Lurie's apartment at the time, just on 3rd Street, just across the street. And our friend, the painter Jean-Michel Basquiat, he used to sleep in our houses, various places, because he didn't have a place to live, and he'd just sleep on the floor. And when we were filming those scenes, Jean-Michel was asleep in a sleeping bag, you know, camping bag. And so when we moved the camera to the other side of the room, we would just drag him under the camera so he's never seen. And we just go back to sleep, just, you know, and then he'd sleep. So he was in the room the whole time sleeping, which is also sort of a time capsule of New York at that time. Like, Jean-Michel's crashing here, so we don't want to wake him, we'll just move him around. I met Chris Parker, I think, at CBGB, you know. In real life, he's very animated and very fast. And when I started filming him, he slowed way down. And I didn't know what to do. Like, wow, this isn't how I imagined the story, because I imagined him much more hyper. But then as I kept filming him and I wasn't able, as a director, and he was not really an actor, I wasn't able to sort of control or guide him enough. Then I decided, okay, this is just the way the film wants to be then. And it's gonna be slower, and it affected the rhythm of the shots and the editing, and so we were just all trying to find how do you make a film? I guess you learn by making one, you know. At this time, we were seeing a lot of the so-called new German films, so Fassbinder, Wenders, Herzog, they were very important. I had seen a lot of Nouvelle Vague films, but I was also interested in cinema history, so I was very interested in Bresson and Carl Dreyer at this time, you know, so I think it came from a lot of places. But, you know, you steal things or you unconsciously, are inspired by things. You can't always be analytical about where they all come from, because it's all sort of a collective kind of area where people draw ideas from each other. And that's still that. I mean, all expression is, a lot of it is theft, you know, or not necessarily theft, but pulling things that speak to you and then making them your own. Certainly Robert Frank is very important, and I got to meet him early on in 1980. And Walker Evans, of course, that inspired Robert Frank in a lot of ways. So a lot of those things are inspirations. Photography, music, painters, other filmmakers, books, poems. Permanent Vacation, I recall he reads a passage in translation from L'Autrement. So that was another, you know, I was certainly still am very interested in people that express things with literary forms.
I'm tired of this book. You can have it.
I'm finished with it. I'm tired of being alone.
Everyone is alone. That's why I just drift, you know.
Well, I like traveling and I like road movies, you know, and Permanent Vacation was such a low-budget road movie that he's traveling by foot, you know. Those are people going to work, you know, all the people down on near Wall Street, all like insects going to work, and then our character lives apart from that whole world and sort of drifts around sort of the haunted city that's almost not inhabited, seemingly. So it was just a very amateurish way to make that contrast, you know. But amateur doesn't mean bad. Like, I must say, I still consider myself an amateur rather than a professional filmmaker, because amateur, you know, it comes from the love of something, and professional means it's your job, you know. So I don't mean it necessarily negatively, although Permanent Vacation's pretty amateuristic on a lot of levels, but I don't necessarily think that's negative, you know. It's a starting place for me. When I finished Permanent Vacation, which I started shooting several days after Nick Ray died. And when I finished it, I showed it to Wim, because he was in New York, and said, could I see your film, you know? So I showed it to him, and he said, oh man, you got to make some more films. I was like, I don't know, you know, maybe I'd like to.